Hello, this is the how-to video for making your plaster casting of your hand print for the donor wall at the zoo. So inside your kit, you'll find two bags. One's going to say, two of them will be identical, and they'll say mix with 1/3 cup of water. You have one. You don't need both. You have one extra in case you make any mistakes. You'll also have a larger bag that says mix with 1/4 cup of water. This is your plaster. So you'll put the plaster off to the side for right now. And we're going to start with our tin here. And you're also going to need a bowl, like a mixing bowl, a spoon, a mixing cup, and then a couple large glasses of water. As the water, you don't want it to be hot or too warm. Room temperature is good. Cold water is okay as well, but the mixture sets up better when you have a warmer water. But I would say that just use room temperature water. So what we're going to start with is we're gonna start by mixing up one of the bags of it's kind of a pink looking material, and this is called alginate. And what you'll do is you're gonna add it to the bowl, but you're gonna actually add it after you start your mixing your water, or you're gonna add your water first. I'm sorry. So with the water, we need 1 1/3 cups. So I have my measuring cup here, and I've actually marked it with a marker so that I know the height that I need to add. So I have a 1 1/3 cup right there. So I'm going to put all that water into my mixing bowl, just like that. And you don't have too much time to work. I mean, you do and you don't. You have a few minutes to work. The material wants to set up fairly quickly, so you want to be ready when you start to mix it together. And be ready with your child's hand or your hand, whoever's hand that you're going to be casting. Have them ready and next to you so that when you put the material into the pan, you're ready to go. So I'm going to start. My son's standing off to the side, and so as soon as I'm ready, I'm going to have him come in. And I want you to watch as I mix this. So I start by just kind of putting in a little bit of time, and I'm mixing it. And basically I just kind of keep adding and mixing, adding and mixing, adding and mixing. And I'm going pretty quick. You'll have a little bit of dust that'll come up. It's not too bad for you or anything. So put all of it in there. Okay, so I got it all in there. And you can kind of see it's pretty lumpy right now. So I'm going to keep mixing it. And you're going to mix it just like it's like a brownie mix or something like that. So I'm turning the bowl the opposite direction that I'm spinning the spoon in there, and I want to make sure that I get it all mixed in, get all the lumps out, and I'll do this for maybe another 20-30 seconds. That way I get everything where I want it at. And mix it around. Okay, so now I'm going to put it into the pan, and I'm going to just spoon it all in here. So scrape it off all the edges and the sides here. Get it down into the pan, and then I'm going to spread it out in the pan so that I get it basically a level amount at the bottom of the pan. So I'll use my spoon and I'll spread it out here, spread it into the corners. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin it and tap it. So I'm tapping the corners here, and I'm trying to just kind of get any little air pockets out of there and air bubbles. And you can kind of see some of them in here. And all I do is I just take the spoon and I just pop them here and there. So that way you don't have too many. You'll have some. Don't worry about having some little ones and stuff like that. But if you see any big ones, go ahead and just kind of pop them. That way they don't distort the the casting of the hand. So there's a couple more. And you want to do this just a couple times. You don't want to spend too much time playing around with this, because what will happen is your material is going to want to set up. So I'll get the last of these few ones out of the middle here, these bigger ones, and then we can start our casting process. So Bailey's going to come over here.
Yeah.
And he's going to want to spread his hand out. Let's use your other hand this time.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's going to spread his hand out, and I'm going to help him put his hand into the alginate. So we're going to start at his palm, and I'm going to kind of roll it back and forth a little bit so that we get all the air pockets out. Okay, and then he's just going to kind of hold his hand there. So, and what I do is usually I kind of get it so that I hold his forearm a little bit and hold his hand to make sure that his palm stays down in there. And you want to keep those fingers straight and pushed out, just spread out into the material. And for those of you that have little ones that might not keep their hands straight or might get a little bit nervous with it, you can maybe have a little video going on the TV or something like that, so that they can be distracted a little bit, and you just kind of hold their hand in there. It's only going to take maybe at the very most about 2 minutes to set up. And it's the material, it feels kind of like putting your hand in Jello. So at any rate, it's going to feel a little weird, and then what'll happen is after a little bit, it'll start to set up. And so what I usually do is I start kind of checking the corners, and I'll dip my finger into the corner, and if it comes back with material on it, then I know it's not set up yet. And basically what you're looking for is you're looking for it to bounce back almost like it's a rubber material after it has set up. So how does it feel, Bailey?
It feels good, and well, when you feel it kind of vibrating, but sometimes I'm moving my hand a little bit, and I feel it's just staying there really good. And I don't know if that spot's done, but well, it's gonna kind of take a long time until it starts, but I think it's starting to right
It's starting
now.
to set up. I can feel it. Yeah. So just a few more seconds, maybe another minute or like a half a minute or so, and then what we can do is we can start to demold his hand out of the material.
I feel air coming. I feel the air like.
Yeah, and he's saying that he can feel air coming. What he can feel is he can feel the air. It's starting to separate on his palm, so he can feel the air kind of starting to come in. And what we want to do is we want to be able to pull the hand out and still maintain the integrity of the mold. Is we're going to slowly lift our palm up and then pull our fingers out after that.
I think it's.
So he's starting to pull in. And parents, go ahead and just kind of hold the mold a little bit, and you can start to real slowly. You'll feel it just kind of come up, and you can kind of wiggle his fingers a little bit. And there you go. And that's what it looks like.
Wow, that's a good one.
And so from here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do our plaster. So you can go ahead and start mixing the plaster. And actually, what you'll do is you'll go ahead and you'll clean out this, and you'll see that it's all set up just like, you know, kind of like the hand casting. So it's like a rubbery like material.
Okay.
And so what I do is I get it all out, and then I'll just throw it in the garbage. Don't put this down the drain. It'll end up clogging your drains. It's not bad for the environment, but it is bad for your drains. And so I'm gonna put this off to the side for right now, and I'll throw this out a little bit later. But I've got a 5-gallon bucket here underneath that I'll use to rinse it, and then that way I can have a fresh bowl for casting my plaster. So I just kind of rinse it out, and then that way, you know, when you're done with this, instead of dumping it down the drain, you just throw it in the grass or in the dirt or the rocks in the backyard, and it'll be perfectly fine. So
yeah.
So clean off the spoon.
Yeah, sometimes when you pull your hand out of the casting, sometimes your hand will like be clean, but sometimes the sides will have like some of that plaster on. But if you wash your hands and scratch it off, it'll come off perfectly.
So I've cleaned it off. Now I'm just drying. That way you get a dry bowl to start with. All right. So all my mold material is gone on the bowl. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the plaster. Now the plaster you're going to go a little bit slower with. So we want the water to be able to absorb it. So this one we're going to go with 1 1/4 cup. You might have to add a little bit more water towards the end, and you'll see what I'm talking about as I'm mixing. It just depends on how warm it is at your house. The plaster can be a little finicky as far as, you want it to still be wet enough, but not too wet that it takes forever to dry. So we put the water into the bowl, and I did a 1 1/4 cups worth of water. And with the plaster, we're going to sift it in, but not. I'm going to let it kind of drizzle out of the package here. And I'm just going to stay in the middle. And basically, I just want to keep adding a little bit at a time. And so that way, what's happening is the plaster is being absorbed by the water, and it's decreasing the amount of lumps or clumps that you'll get if you just dump it all in at once. And so you just kind of keep feeding it in there. And the plaster, you have a lot of time to work with. So if this takes you a few minutes to get all the plaster out of the bag, that's fine. It takes a little while for it to set up. So the alginate, the pink stuff, obviously you could see how quickly that sets up. It's a couple of minutes. So basically I just kind of keep adding it, and it'll start to mound out a little bit in the middle because I've been pretty much dumping it all in the center. But it's still absorbing it. You can see it as the water kind of soaks it up.
Like a sucking monster. Yeah. It's sometimes plaster. Sometimes if you wait a little bit, sometimes like the mountain you're making sometimes cracks, and then it starts to like fall down like an avalanche on, like it was like a snow mountain that avalanche, it just fell down. Yeah, so don't get too scared if you add too much on the top. The water will take it all.
Yeah, so you can see how it's really starting to get high here in the center.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because I've got a lot more plaster in there that I'm going faster than it can catch up. But what I can do now though is I can kind of tap the edge of my bowl, get that mound to kind of collapse itself a little bit, and it'll start to, you can kind of watch it, and it starts to just kind of crumble back, and it's starting to
looks like
pick
little
it up.
crumbs just falling off. It's like an
It's
ocean.
starting to absorb it all around those edges.
Sometimes you can use a spoon to spush it around, or no.
Now you want you really want it to the water to absorb all of it.
Yeah. Sometimes you want to keep tapping.
If it doesn't absorb all of it, what'll happen is you'll get some clumps, and they could be dry pockets in the plaster, and you don't want that to, when you make your plaster casting, you don't want any dry spots in the center. You want to make sure that it all sets itself evenly.
There we go.
All right, so
that's done.
Down to nothing there. Okay, now take your spoon and mix it around. It'll be thick, almost like soft ice cream or heavy whipping cream or something like that. So just mix it around a little bit so that you get an even consistency. And you'll feel it because it was a little bit watery towards the edges, as where the mound wasn't at. You just kind of mix it around a little bit. So it feels consistent through the whole thing. And then we're going to start to pour our mold. So what I do is I like to pour it in one spot. I find one spot, usually right in the middle of the palm, and I just stay there, and I slowly start to fill up the mold, and you'll see here. And then what this does is it allows you to slowly fill up and allow all the air pockets to come out. So then that way you don't have any air pockets down where the fingertips were at and stuff like that. So you fill it all the way out, scrape it out. Once again, when your bowl's done, if you have like a 5-gallon bucket, or you just take it out back and hose it out or something like that, that way you don't get any of the plaster down your drain. So I'll just put that in my 5-gallon bucket. I'm going to tap this around the edges here just to make sure that I fill it all into the corners. And then I'm going to also go around and tap it. See, I got a little air pocket right there, so I can pop my bubbles here. And you just I'm kind of bouncing it, the spoon on the surface, so that I get all and any extra air pockets out of the mold. Okay, so that I can throw in there in my bucket, and then I just tap it a couple times. Tap, 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 tap. Make sure that I get any extra air pockets to come to the surface, and that's it. So then from here, what you're going to do is you're going to let this sit overnight. It's going to take about 24 hours or so for the mold to completely set up, and then I will show you in an extra segment of the video how to take the mold out. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact the email at the bottom of the written instructions, and please make sure that you read the written instructions, and I would say watch the video a couple times before you try to do your actual mold. We do have an extra bag of the alginate in there, which was the pink stuff, just in case when you do it, it took too long and you couldn't get a good casting, and so on and so forth. So thank you for your support with the zoo, and we will talk to you soon. Bye. Okay, so here's a mold that I actually had done yesterday, and it's of my hand. So basically, this one's set up. It's all hard, and all I do is I just kind of peel back on the edges a little bit, on the corner or on the sides here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over and then kind of gently push on the bottom here, and you'll feel it just kind of pop out. So you've got to bring it to the edge here. So I'm going to kind of wiggle it out. Oh, and here we go. And this actually popped out perfectly. So sometimes what you have to do though is the alginate will want to come out with it. And the alginate, it's a rubbery like material. This one's starting to set up a little bit. And as you can see, it can tear pretty easily. And so sometimes what happens is it comes out like this, and then all you do is just kind of peel back until you have the exposure of the plaster. And then from here, this is where you'll package it up and send it back to me, and I'll make it out of glass. So once again, thank you for your support, and thank you for listening to the video, and we'll talk to you soon.